Hey there, sheepdoggers, and welcome to the Blood. What the hell is this fucking thing called? Blood and Glory? Blood and something. It's the Blood Pack DLC for Total War Warhammer, and you will be looking at some footage with the DLC. Blood for the Blood. It's yeah, okay. Total War Warhammer, Blood for the Blood God. Yeah. Basically, I'm not gonna be talking about whether it's good or bad. It's alright. It's alright. Now, you know, there are blood spurts. This is what the you know, kind of synopsis says for the game thing. Blood spurts, gory spatter on unit models, lemon head dismemberment, humanoids and non-legendary characters, zombies, skeletons, grave guards may continue to fight after dismemberment, explosive gibbing from deadly mid-torso strikes, blood-drenched UI elements, new random global campaign events that generate greater carnage in battle. Now, I'm not sure about that last bit, but I have experienced the rest of it, and you can, you know, see here, like, we're going to be getting into battle, and I'm not trying to win. For the most part, I just kind of zoom in, you know, see how interesting, you know, try and get some good footage of, some killing and you know, some dismemberment and blood and all that kind of thing. Yeah, and as I said, I'm not really going to be talking about whether the blood for the Blood God is worth it. You know, I'm not going to be talking about whether it's good, really. I will make a few comments. But what I want to talk about a little bit is people's reaction to this particular DLC and kind of just Total War Warhammer in general. Now, I really like Total War Warhammer. I'm going to put that out there straight away. I think it's a great thing that it was made. It's something that I've been wanting for a long time, and it didn't exactly disappoint. It's not exactly what I want, but it's closer than anything else has really come, especially in a long time, to what I'd love. And actually, you can see right here, the skeleton got his head knocked off, and then he gets straight back up and starts fighting. Although you don't see that. Because I pan away, because I'm a moron. So, talking about the kind of DLC, I think the first thing we should do is talk about the first DLC, the Chaos Warriors. Now, there's a huge kerfuffle. There's the new Dragon Blood Knights, by the way. Part of the free DLC. You know, the free DLC. And I think it's very, very telling, the fact that the free DLC is updates and a unit. You know, I mean, look, I'm not gonna kind of, you know, put my hand up and go, hey, look, all DLC should be free and that kind of thing. You know, it's not something I feel is viable in gaming at the moment. You know, so I'm not gonna be like, all DLC has to be free. However, saying, you know, the blood pack, the blood DLC, you know, kind of the gore and all that should be free, I think is a fair request. And I'm not saying it because, you know, because like there's this whole kind of ERSB, yeah, rating, you know, kind of like the maturity rating and that kind of thing. They say, like, if it's free, then obviously there's going to be problems and they're going to change the I don't really care whether that's true or not. But the pure fact of the matter is, the blood and gore pack is all right, I guess, but it's nothing so amazing that it would be worth paying for, and it's nothing that shouldn't have been in at the beginning, technically speaking. And the reason why, I've been pissed off that they've put out, the blood packs before, and they've never been great at with DLC. It's the DLC for Total War, since they've been doing it, as far as I know, has been expensive. It's been unnecessary sometimes. It's been just another kick in the teeth occasionally, like with Rome 2 and Caesar and Gaul. That shit was fucking ridiculous. Like, from my memory at least, they were basically promising that it was going to be, it was going to deal with the problems with the barbarians and all that kind of thing, and I don't really think it did. And like, the game was still had massive troubles with it. Now, one of the things I dislike about the DLC is things like Day 1 DLC. Holding a faction to ransom to get pre-orders is wrong. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, people pre-ordered it, so, they clearly wanted it. There's a difference between saying, if you pre-order, you get this faction free, and, basically saying, here's an extra faction. If they'd have put the Chaos faction to be available even probably not a few weeks, but just a little bit after the release of the game, then it's not that bad. I don't even particularly have a problem with Day 1 DLC. Not particularly, like, it's not good, it's a terrible practice, but it's much better than saying, oh, if you want this game, if you want all the content in this game, you can have it, and you can have this extra bit free if you pre-order it. And it's just like, it's just another example of shady shit that they, the Total War franchise has been doing for years, and they get away with it because they have a pretty loyal fan base. I mean, the pure fact that anyone played Attila after the fucking train wreck and just pure and utter bullshit lies that they were spouting, leading up to the release of Rome 2, the ridiculous, just literally lying straight out to everyone and saying, like, oh, this is how the game is, and then, a little bit later we find out, oh, actually, that wasn't the game, that was like a pre-made fucking bullshit fest. Having people, representatives as it were, like, lying out of their arse, and also, I mean, there are problems with this game, and the combat when you zoom in and slow down, I feel, is one of them. Anyway, sorry, let's stick to DLC. So yeah, the Day 1 DLC and the pre-order DLC being the same thing. The Chaos Warriors is ridiculous, and I don't like it. And even Day 1 DLC, I'm not a fan of. I'm like, it's not too bad. It's not as bad, is what I really mean. It's still bad to have Day 1 DLC because it's basically like, here's the full game, and also give us more money for this extra bit of the game. Now, if you're going to commit yourself to a game's continued development, which is what they have said they're going to do, fair play, they said they're going to continue the development, that's great, a lot more races, a lot more features, etc., etc. I don't mind putting down money for expansions and DLC, as long as it's reasonable. But really, if you consider Rome 2 and the fucking fiasco that was, if you consider Attila and the fact that it was basically Rome, I was going to say 1.5, but it was basically Rome 1.0. It was what Rome originally was supposed to be. And it still wasn't that great anyway, from what I've heard. It's just, it wasn't as shit as Rome 2, it was vaguely acceptable. And you consider the fact that even though Total War Warhammer is a good game, and and you will hear me say how much I enjoy it, because I do, it still doesn't change the fact that it's not what it could be. It's, you know, like, just little things like this tail clipping through those guys. You know, it's not how it should be. The fact that the magic is unimpressive for the most part. You know, the fact that that dragon just did that. You know, some of the cavalry charges feel weak and fairly inefficient at killing. You know, just little things, and there's a lot of things I'd love to see that I think would improve the game, and I will do a video on that. But the main thing I want to take away from this is considering the fact that the success, and I'm not overstating this, I don't feel. You know, like, yes, they made a good game. Congratulations, that's what fucking game companies are supposed to do. Considering the fact that, yes, they made a good game, the success of Total War Warhammer is down to the fans. It is down to the people who never gave up on Total War, and I think, you know, there's a bit of a correlation here, but also the people who love Warhammer and, you know, have been waiting for a game like this for ages, you know, and they said themselves this was a massive success, and, you know, so a lot of people have said how much they enjoy it. After all of that, after the fact that, you know, the Total War series was in fucking massive disrepute, you know, people were more and more starting to realize, kind of, fuck Total War, they're ruining it, it's not very good anymore, you know, don't buy it. And then they come out with this, a game people have been wanting since the original Shogun, especially if they're a Warhammer fan. You know, the number of times I've said to my mates who've played Warhammer, who've played Games Workshop games, how awesome would Total War Warhammer be? Then it became a thing, and now we're playing it. You know, it's great, don't get me wrong, but why not sell it for like 10p? For 10 cents, for, you know, why not sell the Blood Pack DLC for a minuscule amount of money and go, look, this is something that has to be in a Warhammer game. You know, blood and gore is Warhammer. So if you're so worried, and, you know, like, this is your whole spiel, isn't it? If you're so worried about that fucking, you know, age rating, you know, the maturity rating, all that kind of thing, because if you made it free, then, you know, there'd be problems, right? Well, shit. Just sell it for fucking cheap. Like, really fucking cheap. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with the top reviews currently on the DLC. DLC gives every facing game a catch-up shot, but does nothing with terrain. Looks really weird when a group of elite soldiers gone through a bloodbath last stands on a virgin white snow terrain. It wasn't typed very well. You may have been able to see there is actually some blood splatter on the floor and stuff, so maybe he didn't have his graphic settings right. Total War, once again charging for something that should be free. That's a different one. Another one says, this should have been in the vanilla game. CA, you did this for the last 2 games. It's cash cowing. We shouldn't have to pay for this. You're your own company. So do what you want, but you suck. Sorry. Another one says, I deeply resent that I had to pay for this. And then, I just paid for blood and gore for a war game. Kill me. Having major graphical glitches when blood effects are enabled. Upon disabling these effects, battle run normally. Sad face. Another one says, on one hand, I really wanted blood and gore in my Warhammer game. I mean, it's Warhammer, not Cuddly Hammer or Teddy Hammer. On the other hand, I despised being fleeced by greedy publishers. If only there was a reasonable compromise, like free DLC for basic game features. As always, the excuse is that they're doing it to keep the PG rating low. Even if this is true, you shouldn't punish your customers for that. And as far as I know, it only changes the base game's rating if it's a mandatory update, not a DLC update. So they could have made this an optional free DLC, or in the worst scenario, where that isn't possible, make it an absurdly low cost instead of €2.5, which is a little bit what I said. I can't believe I just bought Blood for a Total War game as a separate DLC. How low can companies go without cutting content from the game and selling it as separate DLC? And then the last one says, just fucked up all my mods for this. And there's a whole load of other ones, but basically, yeah, it's mostly positive reviews, but the top ones are all negative. So there you go. There's that. And yeah, basically, I just want to reiterate what I've already said, which is pretty much, it's one thing to just cut up and DLC a whole load of shit, downloadable content, lots of money, raking it in. But you know what the difference is between companies that deserve loyalty from their fan base and companies that don't? Let's take an example. Faster Than Light. Such a popular game. So many people love it. They released an update, a good update, that they worked on quite hard for Faster Than Light, which was free. And as far as I can tell, it was like, hey guys, we're so glad you enjoy this game. Here's a bit more of it that we've worked on. Have it for free. Apparently the devs and, the publishers and whoever, the people behind Total War Warhammer, apparently they felt, we were on shaky grounds, and now we've made a game that is basically vastly popular and very successful thanks to a dedicated fan base who really, went out of their way to get the game despite, all the problems that could be there, just based on experience and etc. and all these things. And they went, cheers guys, so glad we managed to make this a thing. More money, please. It's going to cost you a fair amount of money for something that should, even if you will argue that that the blood pack shouldn't be in the other games, it shouldn't be based in the other games. Trust me, in a Games Workshop game, in a Warhammer game, it should be base. It should be standard. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, and the real reason, well, not the real reason, but one of the things that just massively pissed me off is that they sold it to us in trailer and in title as Blood for the Blood God. I'm not sure if that's ironic or whatever, but it's not blood for the blood god, it's money for the fucking money god, Creative Assembly, Sega, money for the money god. And the fact that they used something that I really enjoy about the Warhammer world, Blood for the Blood God, Khorne. Khorne's awesome, I love Khorne. And they used it, and it pissed me off. So yeah, brilliant. Anyway, All I'm saying is they didn't have to make it so expensive. They did. They could have, used it as like a, here you go, guys. This is something that has to be core in the game. It's really cheap. It's free. Whatever. Who gives a shit about the details? Just some form of, acknowledgement of thank you. Other games have done that. Things that were going to be DLC after a successful launch, they go, here's something for free. I wonder if these guys are going to give us anything for free. I'll tell you what, though, I'm not going to hold my fucking breath.